Hi, everybody.
Hi.
Happy New Year.
Happy New Year.
Thanks so much for joining us tonight. We are doing books made into movies or books that are being made into movies for our first Facebook Live book recommendations of the year. So just like every other time, we cannot mention every book that we like. If you know anything good that you think other people should know about and would enjoy, please feel free to post it down in the comments. Or if you have any questions or anything. And don't forget that everything we're talking about tonight is available through our catalog. So get out your pen and pencil, paper,
And write down whatever titles you really like.
Yep. And then, order them later.
Yeah, exactly.
So this was a little bit of a challenge for us, picking out good books that were made into good movies. Would you like to talk about that?
Yeah, so a thing that we came to figure out was that while like a lot of adult titles tend to get really good movie adaptations, or at least moderately good, a lot of YA books and children's books don't. When I was doing my research for this, I found a ton of titles that were like popular that came out that were like in like the 27% on Rotten Tomatoes, like 3 on IMDb, and I didn't want to recommend titles that didn't also have a good movie adaptation because since we're talking about books to movies, we want to make sure that you enjoy both titles. Yeah. So we kind of went a little bit older on some of our titles, as well as also looking into things that are going to be coming out, so that you can read them before they come out. Yeah. So that's kind of what our goal was for this. We were thinking about like doing Oscars because Oscars are coming up.
It's kind of hard.
It's really hard because most YA doesn't make it to the Oscars.
Or the movie, like you were saying, if it just doesn't match up as well.
It just doesn't, yeah.
But I see there's a bunch of people jumping on.
Hi.
So, hi,
Make sure you say hi to us.
Yeah, say hi, give us a thumbs up or something so we know that you're here.
Yep.
And thank you to Elisa for sharing our video. I really appreciate that. All right, so just like always, Erin's going to start us off. She covers YA and kids, and I do the adults.
Yep. So I'm a huge movie person. I love watching movies, and I love when my books are made into movies as long as they're actually good.
Right.
Which, in this case, the book I'm going to recommend kind of walks the line of the book is amazing, the movie was good. So. But it didn't make it into America. It was really popular in Europe for some reason. Oh. Salem's Lot. That is such a good one. Yes.
That's a great book. Yeah. I've never seen the movie. There's a lot of versions. Which one would I watch?
True. So what I'm starting off with is a book that is actually a personal favorite of mine that I have handed to anyone who will sit still long enough for me to tell them about it. It is called Between Shades of Grey by Ruta Sepetys. I've actually met the author. She's wonderful. The research she does for her books is out of this world. The whole story is actually about a story you don't hear a lot about, which is the Lithuanian plight during Stalin's rule of the Soviets. So Between Shades of Grey is about a girl named Lena who lives in Lithuania. She is rounded up with her family, put on a cattle car, and sent to a concentration camp in Siberia. While there, she talks about kind of all the things that happened to her and her family, and how she uses her artwork to communicate with other prisoners and also communicate outside of the walls. It is absolutely gorgeous. The book has brought many people to tears and had them come say, "Why did you do this to me?" And we say, "Because you have to." There's another interesting fact about this book is that this is a internationally acclaimed title, but it also came out around the same time as a title that is very similar called 50 Shades of Grey.
You might have heard of it.
Yeah. So there's a bit of a conspiracy theory rumor around that this book was the one that people were talking about when they said, "Hey, you should read this book. It's something gray." Right. And people said, "Okay, cool, I'll go pick up the book." And they picked up 50 Shades and didn't realize they were supposed to be picking up Between Shades of Grey. Now, the movie adaptation does not have the same name. It is called, I think it's Ashes in the Snow. Yeah, which came out in 2019. It has like a 6.7 on IMDb and
decent.
A 50% on Rotten Tomatoes. It wasn't wide released in America, but you can still watch it on DVD, and I recommend that you do. So that is my recommendation. It is Between Shades of Grey and then Ashes in the Snow. It's by Ruta Sepetys, and this is in the YA section.
cool. And I think some more people are jumping on. Oh, thanks for the heart.
Yeah.
Please feel free to say hello or tell us any recommendations that you have.
Yep.
So my first one that I'm talking about tonight is First Man, The Life of Neil Armstrong. It's by James R. Hansen. The book came out in 2018. So when Apollo 11 touched down on the moon's surface in 1969, the first man on the moon became a legend. And in First Man, the author explores the life of Neil Armstrong, and he has over 50 hours of interviews with Armstrong, who's intensely private, so he got special access to interview Armstrong, and he also had access to private documents and family sources. Publishers Weekly gave it a starred review, saying that it's a powerful, unrelenting biography of a man who stands as a living testimony to everyday grit and determination. It has a lot of cool photos of lots of space things that are really neat. The movie just came out in January, last year, 2019. I'm still getting used to being in 2020.
I know, right?
The movie is with Oscar-winning director Damien Chazelle and star Ryan Gosling, who everybody knows about.
Yes.
And it basically follows the book really well. And it shows not only, the story of Armstrong, but also his family and his colleagues in the nation in one of the most dangerous missions in history. So they both got really good reviews. I tried to look on IMDb for around 7 out of 10 stars.
Yeah.
So here we go. First Man. Read it and watch it.
The best I could hope for was about 6 to 7 with most YA adaptations, and I'll take that because a lot of people don't expect a lot from YA and children. So if you get a 6, that's great. It's a good sign. My next book is one that if you saw our photo that was advertising this, I held up Love, Simon, which is an adaptation of Becky Albertalli's Simon versus the Homo Sapiens Agenda, which was an LGBT title that hit screens this year. It was wide acclaim. It was great. I was like, cool, I could talk about this, or I could talk about a book that is just as good but didn't get as much acclaim, and I feel like it should. Yeah. So this is called The Miseducation of Cameron Post. As you can see, it's already got like a little thing on here saying it had a bunch of awards. Cool. It won a lot of awards. It's older though. It was in 2012, but was turned into a movie in 2018. So Miseducation of Cameron Post is set in Montana in like 1993. And it opens with the main character, Cameron Post, a girl making out with the homecoming queen in the back of a car. And the whole story kind of follows her coming out, coming to terms with who she is. And then later on, the second half of the book is basically when her family finds out that she is gay and sends her off to a conversion therapy camp called God's Promise. And about the people she meets there who are also not happy about being in a conversion therapy camp and work to break out. And it's an amazing book. The movie adaptation was great. It was actually one of the better movie adaptations I've seen for a YA book. It had Chloe Grace Moritz, who's been in a lot of things. She was like Hit Girl and a bunch of other things. So it has like a 6.6 on IMDb and an 86 on Rotten Tomatoes. Wow. A lot of really good reviews. I love this book. The first half is like the sepia tone romance, and then the second part is like this really cool rebellion. It was very, very, very good. I loved it. So that is The Miseducation of Cameron Post by Emily M. Danforth. Cool.
Hey, don't forget you guys can put your own favorite movie to book to movie in the bottom like Jean did. We could use some more suggestions.
Yep.
But my next one is Can You Ever Forgive Me? Memoirs of a Literary Forger by Lee Israel. So obviously this is a true story. It's a memoir. And it's a story of Lee Israel, who once was a legitimate author of biographies. That was really her thing. She had a niche in that. But when it came around to 1990, she was almost broke and she was desperate to hang on to her Upper West Side studio. So she made a career change. She decided to become a forger. So she has all this access to information about stars, since that's who she's written about. So with her considerable skills in celebrity knowledge, she begins to forge letters in the voices of literary greats. Between 1990 and 91, she wrote more than 300 letters in the voices of people like Dorothy Parker and Edna Ferber, and sold them to dealers, which is kind of crazy to think about.
Yeah.
New York Times gave it a good review. They said that she's displayed an excellent ear, a fine turn of phrase. All these years later, she's written a fabulous book about her misadventures. and it came out as a movie in 2018 with Melissa McCarthy playing Lee Israel.
Yep.
And when I think of Melissa McCarthy, I'm thinking, oh, she's so funny. But this is a serious role, so I'm really interested to check this out and see how it goes. This also got really good reviews, so you should check these two out.
So for my next one, it's a children's title, and I'm really excited about this one. So with children's titles, it's always hit or miss whether you're going to get a really good animated movie or a good live action. It's hard to tell. This one is kind of a middle-aged title, and I think most people probably know it. It's been out since
Really
2000. It's incredibly popular. It basically was like the novel for my childhood, and it is Stargirl by Jerry Spinelli. This is going to be released as a movie on March 13th in 2020, so this year. Got a couple months to wait for it. It has Grace VanderWaal playing Stargirl, which some of you may actually know who she is, some of you may not. I found out that she was on America's Got Talent as the girl who played ukulele, because Stargirl is known for playing ukulele.
Oh, that's right.
Yes. So I'm like, hey, they have someone who plays ukulele and is really good at it. I think either won or almost won America's Got Talent playing it.
The ukulele?
Yeah, she sang and she did ukulele. It was really cool.
That's awesome.
I had no idea that until I looked it up. So it's going to be coming out this year, and if you don't know what Stargirl is, you really should read it. Adult, children, it doesn't matter. This is a book that resonates with everyone. Stargirl, it centers around a boy named Leo Borlock, who is, and he's a 11th grader, who is kind of normal. He's pretty bland, pretty normal, and then along comes this girl who's new, and she goes by Stargirl. She talks about strange things, and it's very magical and floaty, and she plays ukulele, and she tries to introduce him to star stuff, but he decides to choose normalcy over being star like her. And it kind of like looks on him as he gets to be an adult and looks back at his life and his classmates in contrast to Stargirl. It's a beautiful book. And there was a follow-up that was made, and I'm kind of hoping, because I love Stargirl, which is the sequel, so I'm hoping that if the movie does well, they also do Love Stargirl. But if you haven't, you should really pick this up before the movie comes out. So it is Love Stargirl by Jerry Spinelli.
Okay, for my next one, I have a book from 2009. It's called The Boy Who Harnessed the Wind, Creating Currents of Electricity and Hope by William Kamkwamba. So this is a story about William, who was born in Malawi, which is a country in, oh, thanks for the heart.
Yeah.
It's a country in Eastern Africa, and only about 2% of people in Malawi had, at this time, access to electricity and running water, which is crazy. And William's village is facing a serious drought, and he's read a few books, some old science books about things like windmills, so nobody believes that he can do it. But he gathers broken bicycle parts and trash and all these things, and he builds a windmill and pretty much saves his town. And he's only a little kid. He's 13 years old, which is incredible and really inspiring. The former Vice President, Al Gore, gave it a nice mention. He said that William's achievements with wind energy should serve as a model of what one person can do to tackle the crisis we face. And the movie came out in 2019 on Netflix. So I don't have a DVD to show you, but I'm pretty sure it's going to come out on DVD. Or you can always borrow your friend's Netflix password.
Exactly.
So The Boy Who Harnessed the Wind, really inspiring story about a boy in Africa.
So I have, as my next one, possibly the oldest book I think we will ever review on this, most likely.
Maybe.
But it is a classic. Most people have heard of it. If not read it, they probably read it in school. But it is coming out on February 21st, and it's going to be starring Harrison Ford, and that book is going to be turned into the movie The Call of the Wild.
It's one of my favorites.
So, The Call of the Wild, yeah, it's getting like its 5th or 6th adaptation.
It's crazy.
But I think with having Harrison Ford in the cast, it's probably really good.
Yeah.
For those of you who have not read The Call of the Wild, how dare you?
Yeah, what's
You really should have done this by now.
If you love nature or animals, it's a great book.
Exactly. So The Call of the Wild, for those that have not, it was written in 1903 by Jack London about a dog named Buck who is stolen from his home in Santa Clara Valley, California, and brought to Alaska to become a sled dog. While there, he has to fight for dominance, over the other dogs to survive, and then eventually becomes the leader and answers the call of the wild. It's a gorgeous book. It is very thin. You can read it very quickly. So if you haven't read it, if you have read it and you forgot about it, you should absolutely reread it. Read it to kids.
Yeah.
It is wonderful.
It's very atmospheric.
And definitely read it before the movie comes out.
Yeah. So I have a dog book next.
Mm-hmm.
This is from 2008 as well, and it's The Art of Racing in the Rain by Garth Stein. If you it was super popular back in the day, they just came out with a movie. But the story is about a race car driver, Denny, and his dog Enzo. And Enzo believes that a dog who is prepared will be reincarnated as a human. Enzo spends his days watching and learning from TV and learning about race car driving and life. And he watches Denny marry Eve, the birth of their daughter Zoe, and then there's some difficulties when Eve gets sick, and there's some things that happen to the family structure, and Enzo sort of narrates everything that's going on there. The author Jodi Picoult, who's super popular, says this is the perfect book for anyone who knows that some of our best friends walk beside us on 4 legs, and that compassion isn't only for humans, and that the relationship between 2 souls meant for each other never comes to an end. So I've never read it, but it sounds like it might be sad.
I've watched the trailer for it and sobbed and said, I can't handle it because I know it's going to make me cry. Probably one day.
Yeah, maybe when I'm feeling brave.
Exactly.
So this is the movie, The Art of Racing in the Rain, came out in November of 2019. It has Kevin Costner voicing the dog, which I think is super cool. And the race car driver is Milo Ventimiglia.
From Gilmore Girls.
Oh, really?
Yeah, he was my favorite.
Racing in the Rain. You should read it and watch it.
So my next one is another one that's coming out. I think this is going to be great if you like slasher films, you like horror. I'm not a huge slasher horror film person, but if it's good, I will still watch it because I think it's still fun.
Yeah.
This one is called There's Someone Inside Your House by Stephanie Perkins. This came out in 2017, and a lot of people were like really into it. They thought it was really fun. They're like, it's a good like creepy romp. It's less on the scary side, more on like the slasher horror gore side. It is along the lines of I Know What You Did Last Summer and like the Scream saga, but kind of an updated version. Mm-hmm. It is set in Nebraska, based around a girl who is a senior. Her name is Makani Young. She is half African American, half Hawaiian, and she is new to the area, and she's trying to keep this secret hidden. But as she's trying to keep the secret hidden, all around her in her little sleepy community, people are being murdered in more and more grisly ways, and she is trying to work to slowly figure out who the killer is before somehow her own secret is revealed. So it's like I read parts of it. It got very intense. It's very much like in the slasher genre, but I think it'll be really interesting. It's going to be released potentially in 2020 by Netflix. So it's probably got a lot of things that they're going to do to make it very, very scary and very, very gory. But I think it should be a really good book or a good movie, and I hope that it follows the book because the book was really fun.
Cool.
Yeah.
I have a mystery next. The book is a little old. It's Motherless Brooklyn by Jonathan Lethem. When it came out in '99, it was a New York Times notable novel, and it was called A Compelling Riff on the Classic Detective Novel. The main character, his name is Lionel Estrog, and he has Tourette's, which makes him bark and count and sort of rip apart different words. He works for a small-time mobster named Frank, and then one day Frank is stabbed to death. And this puts one of Lionel's colleagues in jail, and 2 others vie for his position. The victim's widow skips town, and Lionel's world's all topsy-turvy. Frank was the only person who really wanted to employ him because he feels like he doesn't fit in, and then suddenly Frank's dead. So Lionel decides that he's going to investigate who really killed Frank. When it came out, the Boston Globe said, "Who but Jonathan Lethem would attempt a half-satirical cross between a literary novel and a hard-boiled crime story narrated by an amateur?" And the movie is coming out in January on the 20th. So this is just like the movie poster image, but it has Ed Norton playing the main character Lionel, who has Tourette's, and Bruce Willis is Frank Minna, the small-time gangster. So I think it's going to be really cool.
So my next title, I don't have a copy of the book because it is so incredibly popular. I cannot keep it on my shelves. I have like 4 copies of it. I probably have to order more. But this came out 2018 to massive acclaim. People were freaking out over it. They absolutely loved it.
So much talk about it.
So much talk about it that I think before it was even published, it basically was snapped up for a movie deal, like before it even hit the shelves. So here's a printout of the cover. It's called Children of Blood and Bone by Tomi Adeyemi. I have the sequel here, which was just released, which I think if the movie does well, it'll probably kind of get the same movie treatment. But Children of Blood and Bone is about 17-year-old Zélie. I'm sure I'm saying the names incredibly wrong because they have very French like style to them. Yeah. But it's Zélie, who is living in a world, the magic land of Orisha, which has West African elements to it. Mm-hmm. Zélie is a diviner, which is a person with latent magical abilities that manifests through white hair, which also kind of sets them apart from the people around them. Yeah. She saves Princess Amari, who's on the run from her father after stealing a scroll that is able to transform diviners' magic into turn them into magic-wielding magi. Mm-hmm. And so the 2 of them flee with the help of Zélie's brother. This same scroll that they're talking about had vanished 11 years ago during the King's Magi genocide. And so Princess Mara's brother is sent out in hot pursuit to go and find them because they want that scroll. When they find out about the pending solstice that offers the only chance of restoring magic to the diviners, they now know that they have a race against time to go and try and essentially save their country, save their people, and save magic. It is amazing. It has a giant world-building plot. I covered barely even a scratch of the surface of the story trying to explain it, and it's hard to explain because there is so much to tell, and I don't want to spoil it, so I was trying to give you a spoiler-free review, and that was very hard to do. But I think you should absolutely pick it up if you haven't. This is probably going to be one of the bigger movies, especially for YA, to come out. It's probably going to be like Hunger Games-esque in its like height. Mm-hmm. It's still only in the script stage. It's just getting a lot of hype already, which shows you how much they're putting into this. So it said it's possibly going to be released end of 2020, early 2021. Awesome. Hopefully that is actually what happens. And it's going to be directed by, I forgot how to pronounce the last name of the director, but his name's like Rick Fumia, and he actually did 2 episodes of The Mandalorian. So I'm like, that's cool.
That is cool.
He's pretty fancy. So yeah, you should absolutely check out Children of Blood and Bone by Tomi Adeyemi. This is the sequel, which just came out.
Okay, we're taking a bit of a hard turn here. I'm
yes.
talking about a Western. But it was written pretty recently in 2011, not by Louis L'Amour or William Johnstone. This is by Patrick DeWitt. And when it first came out in 2011, it was a Booker Prize finalist and a Best Book of the Year, according to Publishers Weekly, Amazon, Washington Post, and some others. So the story is that there's a man named Herman Kermit Worm, and he has to die. It's been ordered by a man known only as the Commodore. And the Commodore has 2 henchmen, Eli and Charlie Sisters, who are brothers. So they're traveling to kill this guy, and Eli, one of the brothers, realizes that, I don't have the same appetite as my brother for whiskey and killing. Maybe this isn't really what I'm supposed to do with my life. But as he's questioning this, they find out that their prey isn't really an easy mark. So it's a little bit satirical. It's also called like a dark comedy. It has a lot of different themes, including the Old West. Yep. NPR says it's hilarious, graphic, meditative. It took them all the way from page 1 to 300, and they could have stayed for more. And then for the movie, it has John C. Reilly, who I think is hilarious, and anything he does, and Joaquin Phoenix. They play the brothers. So this sounds like an awesome modern take on the classic Western.
So we always like to end with two just kind of like interesting ones that maybe go with the theme but are a little bit outside of our like boundaries we set for ourselves. Mm-hmm. So I decided, because I always like to find something interesting, that I wanted to go with one that absolutely terrified me as a child that just recently got a movie adaptation. If you haven't heard of it, it is Scary Stories to Tell in the Dark, which is absolutely terrifying, which was turned into a movie by Guillermo del Toro, who is known for Pan's Labyrinth and Hellboy and a bunch of other really well-done titles. And I saw likes for absolutely terrifying things that I don't know how I was allowed to read. I can remember picking this book up in Mrs. Hamill's 4th grade classroom and reading it during free reading time. I was in 4th grade reading this. I don't know why people thought that it was a good idea to let us read books with these illustrations, but I loved it. I loved it. I loved this. I looked forward to this every free reading. And then it got its movie adaptation, and I'm a chicken, and said, I'm going to watch this, and I did, and I regretted it the entire time.
I'm not going to watch it.
But, oh, it was so good. It was just like, oh my gosh, why did they do this? So anyway, if you haven't read Scary Stories to Tell in the Dark, and you want to scare people, you should absolutely have them read it, or you should read it yourself, because it is so fun. I haven't had the heart to reread it since I was a kid. I just remember the fear I had as a child, and that has stayed with me my entire life.
Yeah, that was so popular when I was a kid, too.
Oh, absolutely. Like, all my classmates would fight over it for free reading time, and I'm like, we were all weird.
Well, speaking of weird, back in college, my friends and I could pretty much quote this whole movie.
I still can.
But it started as a book, The Princess Bride by William Goldman, and the subtitle is S. Morgenstern's classic tale of true love and high adventure, the good parts version abridged. And actually one of our patrons on Facebook said that we should include this.
Absolutely.
So thank you. Mm-hmm. Please feel free to give us suggestions anytime. Mm-hmm. This is such a great book.
It is.
It has everything. There's a good guy, there's bad guys, a girl, there's sword fighting, revenge, poison, romance, happy endings, giants, rodents of unusual size. It's got Wesley the farm boy and Buttercup the beautiful maiden, Inigo Montoya the swordsman, and it's all about true love with some swashbuckling. The movie came out, so this came out in 73, and the movie came out in 87. I'm pretty sure this is an anniversary edition because it's gorgeous. I'm going to show you some pictures inside. But Fred Savage plays the kid who's having his grandfather read the story to him. The grandfather is played by Peter Falk, who used to be Columbo, for all you old Columbo fans. The Buttercup, the young maiden, is played by Robin Wright. It's her first role, I believe. Carrie Elwes plays Wesley. Everyone loves Carrie Elwes.
And I've been hugged by him. It was wonderful.
You hugged Carrie Elwes?
I hugged Carrie Elwes.
We have to talk about this later.
I'm a huge con. I go to cons. He was great.
Yeah. Look, there's a picture of Carrie Elwes with Buttercup. And here's another one. This is a pivotal scene with some poison you might know about if you've ever seen the movie. And then the beginning of the sword fight, which I really enjoy. So, maybe you think that this is a little too old for you, being from the 70s and 80s, but they're both fantastic. They follow each other very closely. You learn a little bit more about some of the side characters in the book, but they're both great.
Yeah.
So thank you again for watching us tonight, and please put any comments or questions you have if you're watching the replay down in the comments.
We're always looking for recommendations.
Yes.
So our next one is going to be on February 12th, Wednesday at 7:30 like usual. We're really excited for this one because it's the perfect time to cover this topic, which really is sweet and toe-tingling romances. We're going to not just be doing just like straight romances. It's going to be, suspense with a really good romance, or fantasy with a really good romance.
So many
we just want something that like kind of makes your heart like speed up and you get that like happy, like jittery feeling. Yeah, that's what we're gonna be looking for. If you have recommendations for that, please let us know. We're always looking for recommendations from our patrons.
Love recommendations.
And we love recommending books to you.
Yeah, thanks so much for joining us, and Happy New Year again.
Happy New Year.
See you next time.
See ya.